Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, October 26th of 2025. Now, I wasn't going to film a video this morning from me because I recorded another interview with the founders of FLFE, which is Focused Life Force Energy, and it's something I've been talking about for the last year especially, but I've been using the service for a couple of years, and I just did a second beautiful interview with Jeffrey and Clayten at the end of September. It just got edited and I was going to drop it by itself today for my Sunday video of love, but I had a couple of things that came through really briefly, so I just wanted to share them with you, and then I wanted to point you in the direction of this video interview that I did with Jeffrey and Clayten, because I think it's super important that we keep our frequency high and we give ourselves protection. And promoting and sharing this service I feel is really important, because if you know me and you've been following me for a while, you know I don't really even push my own products very hard. I feel like the people that are supposed to find me will, and maybe that's not a super smart marketing strategy, but it's there's many layers of reasons of why I do it that way. Authenticity, so many things. So a couple of the things that came through in my journaling that I just wanted to share, I thought it was really important for where we sit in this time period of humanity, is what I'm going to share with you. And then I'm going to point you to this video interview that I did with Jeffrey and Clayten. That's about an hour long, so if you've got time to watch it, definitely give it a watch, especially if you've had questions about this technology, because it's something that I think a lot of people that hear about it for the first time, no matter how open-minded you might be, when you first start learning about quantum entanglement, the power of what we all have and how there are grids of energy around the world, it can still be a little bit interesting to wrap your head around this technology. So it's a great interview, and I really highly encourage you to click on that next and watch it. Okay, so here's what came in the first of the week. When a big move is made, so when you make a big move in your life, and I'm asking myself this, why do our thoughts and emotions go toward the things that could go wrong instead of all the good things that will come out of making the big moves and the big changes? I think that this is really common, so common. I think it happens for all of us. I think we're kind of programmed that way. So it's like I have been focusing this entire week on, okay, why am I still focusing on the things that could go wrong with some of these big moves that I've been making recently, instead of all the things that could go right? And we know that when we put emotion and especially emotion into the quantum field, it changes the field. And we might say we know this, but then to practice it is a whole nother story. So I have been practicing this all week, and part of this is not making assumptions, because I think that's what gets us into a negative loop, is we think about the things that could go wrong because we're assuming, we're making assumptions. And when I read the 4 agreements all those years ago, probably 20 years ago, that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me, is don't make assumptions. And we make it chronically and constantly. So when a big move is made, why do our thoughts and emotions go toward all the things that could go wrong instead of all the good things that will come out of making the big moves and the big changes? That's really, really amazing, because you're basically doing what I like to call jumping off a cliff and building your parachute on the way down. Most people don't take risks or do things that are hard because not only are they afraid of the outcome, but they don't have certainty, and we always think of the worst case scenario. And that's common. And maybe for a second think that way, but then let yourself flow into what all the good things are going to happen when you make these big, bold moves. And then then I wrote this: focus on and think about all the things that will go right, not what might go wrong, and hold the vision. Okay? And then this one last little thought process. It's time to pull away from all of the noise and this is what my higher self dropped in really hard for me this week. The rabbit holes, the conspiracy theories, all of it. All of them are distractions. Stop feeding them attention. I think we can notice, but don't feed it. Notice what's happening, but do not feed it. Do not give it your attention. And honestly, if you really look at what's happening, one side or the other gets amplified. And it doesn't matter what side you fall on. You know, to me, it's like, I don't consider myself part of any political party. I consider myself a human who likes to look at all the things and have common sense and come from a place of love. And, you know, people might think, well, you have to get involved politically because that's how we make changes. Well, I would beg to differ. At this point, where we find ourselves, if you are, you know, highly left or highly right or even somewhere in the middle, it's good to pay attention. Notice, but don't feed it. Notice what's happening. Make the right decisions. And then we need to build things that can't be copied. Right? You know, we need to just build things that can't be copied. You know, that just kind of dropped in. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then we need to amplify the signal. This is again where I think it's really important to take a look at this focused life force energy technology, because this helps amplify the signal of pure love and consciousness. And this is how we win. This is how humanity wins. I don't think it's a doomsday scenario that's happening. I think the energy is freaking wonky. We all know that. We all feel it. And it's easy to dive into what's the worst that can happen, right? So instead, let's swap our mantra to what's the best that can happen. And then we need to lead. We need to lead ourselves, our family, our friends, the people that we influence. We need to lead ourselves and them to the exits. Where's the exit out of something? You know, for me, it's health. You know, to me, I do my best to lead people out of the health and the medical system trap. You know, that is disconnecting. That's one of the most powerful things I feel like we can do, is if we want to opt out of the game, we need to stop playing the game. Stop playing the right or left game. Stop playing the game. And I think one of the most powerful things you can do is to opt out of the medical system and the whole horrible, you know, there's a lot of good people in there. I'm not discounting that. I have a sister who's a nurse. You know, I have many good friends and people in the medical industry. But your rebellion is your health. And you always hear that saying that, you know, people spend all of their health gathering wealth, and then they spend all of their wealth trying to get their health back. Your health is your most gold. It's where you hold the most gold, is your health, because it will take you all the way through life without buying into all the systems and the fear, and oh my goodness, it's crazy. We need to stop feeding the narratives, because there's narratives on either side. You know, I've done all this stuff. I've gone down so many rabbit holes, and I find that now when I catch myself starting to go down a rabbit hole, I go, wait a minute, what's happening here? Things are not what they seem. We know that we are being lied to on all fronts, from everywhere. And when we give our attention to these rabbit holes and we think, okay, that feels true, this conspiracy theory feels true, and they all might be true. But the best thing you can do is take your energy away, remove it, stop feeding the narratives. We need to align with beauty, truth, and connection. We need to align with beauty. Look at what's beautiful. Focus on that. Create something beautiful. Tune into your own truth. What is your truth? That is so critically important right now. And this is where it might get kind of hard, because we're so used to getting caught and sucked into other people's truths. You need to tune into yourself and your own truth. And then connection. Finding and connecting with your tribe. When you release people, situations, and I would say, you know, I've talked these last few years about the huge amount of friends that I used to socialize with and have in my life. And I will tell you, the people that I resonate most with now is a very tiny amount, a very small amount of people. And for a while, it might get a tiny bit lonely. And this is where you really get to have a deeper connection with yourself. And it's especially important to stop sucking into all the stuff that grabs your attention, especially if you find yourself in a place where you don't have the friends to hang out that you used to. You know, this is an important time to go within and get really comfortable with being just by yourself. And that might be really, really hard for some people, but I'll tell you what will happen. It gets easier and easier and easier the more you do it. So we need to hold our field steady. FLFE helps with that. It really does. It's something really beautiful that I suggest that you tap in, get that. There's 15-day free trial. Just try it out to see what you think. Recently, I've gotten a couple really beautiful emails from people that have just, it's blown their socks off how beautiful this technology is. Refuse to play the game because it's all a game. And like I said before, it doesn't matter what side you're on. You know, how about we bring it down to common sense? And I really believe that most of us, that's where the majority of us, that's where we sit. We sit on the side of common sense. And we know that the narrative's been hijacked. And the powers that be that want to keep us divided and stuck, basically, they don't care what we're fighting about. They like that we're fighting. So stop playing the game, okay? What if we all simply refuse to play? And how? And this is where I wrote, be healthy. You know, I saw a little video clip just yesterday from David Icke's son. His name is Gareth Icke. Many of you might follow him. But he did a short little video about this exact thing, about stopping the game. Just stop playing the game. How do we win? How do we really take back our sovereignty? What we do is we stop playing. And one of the things that he brought up was being healthy. You know, it is really important. And I believe there's a lot of things that people are doing to opt out of. And I think it's important to opt out with community, not go live in the woods by yourself and opt out. You can certainly do that if that resonates with you. But human beings are social creatures. We're pack animals. I'm sure you've heard that before. You know, it's important to connect. We're here for energetic human connection, and there's so many beautiful moments that we can create right now, regardless of what the world's doing. So then the last thing I wrote is, what do you do to take yourself out of the game? You know, I'd love to know, what is it that you do? And I know that if you're, you know, watching this, you're probably someone who is like me, and you realize how important your health is, and you've been very proactive, maybe recently, maybe for a long, long time, maybe your whole life. You know, maybe you were raised like I was. You're raised with herbs and plants and playing outside and drinking out of the hose. And, you know, you might have to be in a generation like mine to experience things like that. But, you know, we live in crazy cool times, and we need to look at what could go right. So I'm going to end it right there. 13 minutes, perfect. But I really want to encourage you to take a look at this beautiful interview that I just did with Jeffrey and Clayten at FLFE. And some of you have jumped aboard, and many of you have tried it. I've gotten a ton of great emails. And thank you for taking me up on that. Because like I said, I don't typically promote what other people are doing. But like when I share where I get my tea from a beautiful place in California called Star West Botanicals. And they do bulk tea. It's organic, it's delicious, it's nutritious. I'm a big tea drinker, and so I share what they do because I think what they do is important. So go to the link I'm going to provide below for this new interview with Jeffrey and Clayten. And the link also is awakenthefield.com. So just go there, put in your name and your address. You don't need to put in a credit card, and just try the 15 days out. And there's a lot of information on their website that you can learn about what this technology does and what you might be feeling. And there's some important things like staying hydrated. you're going to all of a sudden be in a high consciousness field. And the field is different, and your biology is going to react differently. You know, many people, their pets start getting along. If there was maybe two cats that didn't get along, you know, how does someone send me an email saying, all of a sudden my two cats who've been living together for years now play together? And that might sound weird, but I'm telling you, this is really, really cool stuff. So I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. This might be a short, weird, wonky message, but hey, those are the energies we're living in. But I love you guys tons. Thank you for tuning in every week, and we will see you next time.